Would you please stand and we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first statement I would like to make this evening is, and that we never lose sight of, in the last 24 hours, we have promoted some of the brightest, highest achieving, gifted, and talented students in the state of California. And we will never lose focus of that. That being said, I need a motion for the approval of the agenda this evening. Moved by Mrs. Kashani, second by Mr. De La Cerda. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes with a 5-0 vote. At this time, I would like to introduce Deputy Perot.
Thank you. Tonight, the board welcomes definitely your passion and your opinions tonight. However, there is protocol that we need to be adhered to. And I think as adults, we'll all agree that we're here for the best interest of our kids that go to these schools. So let's just keep that in mind tonight as we continue.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to read a statement prepared by legal counsel in concert with our district. The agenda tonight is a discussion. Its consideration of possible actions are regarding the potential censure of our board member, Stephen Winkler. A censure does not constitute removal from office. Any person who is a resident within the Saugus Union School District may be elected to the Board of Education of Saugus. Once elected, this board member, who remains a resident of the district, may only be removed by the electorate through a recall election. Neither the school district nor the Board of Education has any authority to remove an elected board member who remains a resident of the district. An elected board member is not an employee of the district, so policies involving discipline of employees do not apply to board members. The board does have the authority, however, to censure a board member for conduct which violates the board bylaws or our own adopted code of conduct. A censure is an action that expresses displeasure with an elected board member, with the expectation that inappropriate behavior will cease. Prior to any acting on a resolution or a motion to censure a board member, that board member should be given an opportunity to defend or deny allegations as presented by the board. Mr. Winkler will be provided with every opportunity to express himself. Board policy allows the board president to appoint an ad hoc committee to review the allegations of the board member's misconduct. I did do so. Mr. Bryce and myself were the ad hoc committee. The board policy states it is either the board president or it is the board clerk and one board member as not to form a consortium or a quorum. I now call on Mr. Bryce to present the process followed and the preliminary factual conclusions of the ad hoc committee. Again, I thank you for your attendance tonight. We will also provide opportunity for public comments. You have that option to either do so right now or you may do so after Mr. Bryce has presented the allegations. Is there anybody that we have a yellow sheet from that would like to speak before the allegations are presented? Hearing none, I will turn this over to Mr. Bryce.
Thank you. Board President, you appointed me to an ad hoc subcommittee pursuant to board bylaw and administrative regulation 9005 to investigate allegations of misconduct against Mr. Winkler. On June 10th, 2013, I reviewed a blog post on SantaClarita.com by Mike Devlin and invited Mr. Winkler to meet with me to respond to the allegations in the blog post. The blog post attributed to board member Stephen Winkler numerous public statements made in the form of online posting, expressing support for Nazism, slavery, segregation, and enjoyment of cruelty to animals. A copy of this blog post has been provided to the members of the board for purposes of this discussion. The statements attributed to Mr. Winkler in the blog post were generally in the form of comments to YouTube using a YouTube account, Stephen Winkler. The blog post asserts that board member Stephen Winkler is the same individual who is posting comments using the YouTube account Stephen Winkler on the basis that Mr. Winkler's email address is stevenswinkler2000@gmail.com, and that was verified. Searches of Facebook and Google for the email address stephenwinkler2000@gmail.com linked to profiles under Mr. Winkler's name. That was also verified. The Google Plus profile under the name Stephen Winkler that is associated with the email address stephenwinkler2000@gmail.com contains a link to the same YouTube account, Stephen Winkler, that has been used to make the above described online postings. And the YouTube account Stephen Winkler contains a link to the Google Plus profile under the name Stephen Winkler. On June 10th, 2013, I provided Mr. Winkler a copy of the blog post and invited Mr. Winkler to meet with me to respond to the allegations in the blog post. I met with Mr. Winkler at the district office on the evening of Tuesday, June 11, 2013. Legal counsel for the district was also present at this meeting. The information provided by Mr. Winkler included the following. Mr. Winkler confirmed he had read the blog post. Mr. Winkler confirmed that the email address stephenwinkler2000@gmail.com is his. Mr. Winkler denied the YouTube account Stephen Winkler is his. Mr. Winkler confirmed the Google Plus profile Stephen Winkler. Mr. Winkler confirmed the Twitter handle @StephenSWinkler is his. Mr. Winkler called the post made in the YouTube account Stephen Winkler an absolute contradiction of who I am. Mr. Winkler stated he attends Torah studies and services at local synagogues, that his grandparents on his father's side were executed by the Nazis. Mr. Winkler stated that his father was Jewish and his mother was Catholic, and his parents left Germany for Hungary during the Second World War, where his mother hid his father. When asked about the fact that it appeared that the postings made with the YouTube account included information personally related to him, such as information about his grandparents dying in the concentration camp, Mr. Winkler responded, this is something that he's often talked about with many people, and a lot of people who know about him, or who know him, know that about him. He speculated that the person using the YouTube account, Stephen Winkler, might know about him and use this information to make it appear as though he was author of the post. Mr. Winkler stated he has never used a YouTube account and does not use YouTube. Mr. Winkler stated he believes that someone he does not know has gained access to his Gmail account and may have used that access to impersonate him on YouTube. He indicated that he believes this because within the last several months, since around December 2012, he's been unable to find email messages in his Gmail account that should have been there, which leads him to believe someone else may have accessed the account and deleted information. Mr. Winkler also described a recent incident in the local library, approximately 2 months ago, in which he was using one of the computer terminals at the library to access his email. He went to use the restroom, returned to find somebody else who he does not know looking at the screen of the computer he was using. Mr. Winkler stated he jumped on this individual, an altercation followed, and Mr. Winkler was escorted from the library by police, though not arrested. There was a piece of paper on the computer table with his email password written on it that was left behind. He has not changed his email password since that incident. Mr. Winkler provided contact information for library staff who he said he would be able to confirm that this incident occurred. I did contact Erin Christmas from the library. She is the head librarian there. She confirmed that an altercation did occur on that date, but she was not present. So basically she just confirmed the altercation. Mr. Winkler denied that he was the author of any of the comments quoted in the blog post and stated he does not know who the author is. Mr. Winkler indicated that one of his interests is Richard Nixon, whom he reads many books. The user of the YouTube account, Stephen Winkler, has posted several comments regarding Richard Nixon. Mr. Winkler stated he did not have an explanation for how the Google Plus profile that he confirmed is his could be linked to the YouTube account that he denies is his. A number of comments posted by the user of the YouTube account Stephen Winkler related to videos of young children riding small animals. I was personally aware that Mr. Winkler had previously tweeted messages using his Twitter account about wanting to see Jackie Avonco, a young performer, want to ride a goat. I therefore asked him about this apparently similarity in the post. Mr. Winkler responded that the use of the YouTube account Stephen Winkler must know something about him. When asked if he had any idea who would have any reason to impersonate him on YouTube, Mr. Winkler stated a lot of people in the Democratic and Republican parties hate him because of the positions he had taken on candidates he has supported or not supported. When asked whether he had contacted Google or law enforcement regarding what, according to the explanation, appeared to be potentially criminal matter involving identity theft, Winkler stated he had not, but it was his intention upon the conclusion of our meeting to go to the sheriff's station and file a report. Several posts made by the user of the YouTube account, Stephen Winkler, were reviewed with Mr. Winkler. Mr. Winkler denied being the author of these posts. Many of these posts liking or adding favorite videos with Nazi-themed content such as music and imagery. Many were posts liking or adding to favorites videos of children riding dogs. There were numerous posts related to Richard Nixon, a topic which Mr. Winkler himself had a great deal of interest. Mr. Winkler described at least one of these, a post recommending a visit to the Nixon Library, as something I would post, but said it was not him. In reviewing the YouTube postings with Mr. Winkler, it was noted about a year ago that there was a post subscribing to the YouTube channel of Joe Messina, whom Mr. Winkler confirms he knows. After reviewing the above information with Mr. Winkler, he was asked whether there was any other information regarding this matter that should be taken into consideration. He reiterated he was not the author of the YouTube posts. He stated he is a Jew, not a Nazi, that a lot of things in the posts he agreed with, such as the post about Richard Nixon, that he believed someone had created these posts to make it look like him. He stated that if one goes on his Facebook page, one will see that he is a supporter of Israel. He indicated he believes that members of the community have the right to be angry with him about the posts attributed to him if they believe them to be true, but stated he is not contacted by Mr. Devlin prior to the blog post being published, and he questioned why Mr. Devlin had not contacted him. He stated if people maintain an open mind, they will see that for what it is, a smear. The interview was concluded at this point. However, shortly after concluding the interview, I reviewed Mr. Winkler's Twitter followers, information that is publicly available on Twitter, and noted that one of his followers is Nazi Party of SA. I since looked into that, and the Nazi Party of SA is the Nazi Party of America. I know from using Twitter myself that one must accept a follower, so this information seems particularly significant to me, since Mr. Winkler had indeed accepted a follower identified as Nazi Party of SA on the Twitter account that he confirmed as his. This seemed to be inconsistent with Mr. Winkler's disavowal of Nazi sympathies or affiliations. Mr. Winkler was still in the building, so I asked him about this. He stated he was unaware of Nazi Party of SA being a follower on his Twitter, and stated that he believed he must have accepted the follower by mistake, perhaps when accepting other followers. He stated unequivocally he has no affiliation with any Nazi-related organizations. Give me a second. This is kind of long. I continue to review public information on Twitter about Mr. Winkler. On Wednesday, June 12, 2013, I noted that Mr. Winkler follows numerous apparently Nazi-themed Twitter accounts, including the Nazi Party. So I then went to the followers, and he has Nazi Party of SA, Adolf Hitler, NDSAP at Hitler, another Adolf Hitler one, Joseph Goebbels, Rudolf Hess, Hermann Goering, Heinrich Himmler, Joseph Goebbels, Lyndon LaRouche. I also noted that Mr. Winkler is a follower of several Twitter accounts that appeared to be of famous boxers. And if you took a look at the YouTube account, many of the posts on the YouTube account were famous boxers. Those were like Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield, George Foreman, Joe Frazier, and Larry Holmes. I also identified tweets posted from Mr. Winkler's Twitter referring readers to YouTube videos, which appeared to contradict Mr. Winkler's statement he does not use YouTube. One of these tweets stated, "Check this video out, Operation Barbarossa 1941 in color." Earlier today, June 13, 2013, I again met with Mr. Winkler and with District Legal Counsel for the purpose of asking Mr. Winkler why he follows so many apparently Nazi-themed Twitter accounts. Notwithstanding his clear statement to me on June 2013, he has no affiliation whatsoever with any Nazi-related organization. I showed Mr. Winkler screenshots that I had showing the followers of his Twitter account. His basic plea was he didn't recall following any of those Twitters. Based on the above information, it's my personal belief, notwithstanding his denials, Mr. Winkler is the author of the post made on the YouTube account, Stephen Winkler. I've come to this conclusion based not only on the links between YouTube account and the Google Plus profile that Mr. Winkler acknowledges as his, but also based on the fact that the activity on the YouTube account is consistent with Mr. Winkler's acknowledged interests, such as Richard Nixon and Jackie Evancho. Also with Mr. Winkler's activity on Twitter, following numerous Nazi-themed Twitter accounts, also displayed an apparent interest in heavyweight boxing, and accepting at least one such account as a follower of his. I acknowledge that other inferences could be drawn from the information, such as someone has impersonated Mr. Winkler. However, I don't find that to be a plausible inference. YouTube account Stephen Winkler indicates the user who created the account joined on March 19, 2007. So it's definitely not an account that was recently hacked. That's as true as Mr. Winkler claims, and somebody other than him created this account, and he has no responsibility for the activity on this account. That would require me to believe that this person did so more than 6 years ago, and has continued to impersonate him using this account ever since. This would be a very elaborate ruse requiring a great deal of effort and attention to detail. I'm unaware of any information that would suggest this is a plausible explanation for this activity on this account. I also do not personally believe Mr. Winkler's denials because his unequivocal disavowal of any affiliation with Nazi organizations is contradicted by his following of numerous accounts of the names of the infamous Nazis or otherwise invoke Nazi terminology or iconology. Iconology.
Mr. Winkler, at this time, I give you opportunity to either speak now, or we have public comment, or we have public comment, and then you may comment. But you have opportunity to speak at both ends.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, teachers, neighbors and friends. You are my friends. I have some kind of same sensation that Senator Nixon had when he was shocked and dismayed that somebody falsely accused him of having a secret slush fund. And first charges was made that he used this slush fund for his personal uses, such as buying furniture for his house, for example, close to his wife. That the slush fund was secretly made, and that the contributors to the slush fund get political favors from the senator. And Senator Nixon said that he would not resign from the Eisenhower ticket, and Mr. Winkler is going to follow his example and not to resign from the Saugus Union School Board, because as General Eisenhower said, keep fighting right to the last minute, and if the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is on your side, you cannot lose a battle with God on your side. I'm sorry. Psalm 93 says specifically that even if you have 10,000 against on one side, 100,000 on the other one, you're going to win, because you're fighting God's battle. And tonight I received quite explicit orders from the Lord Jehovah to continue this battle right to the bitter end. Now, Richard Nixon had his dog Checkers. I don't have a dog Checkers. I have my brother Michael over there, and I don't know if it would do me as much good as Checkers did for Nixon. he's a seat. I mean, he barks at me sometimes, gives me lectures, and makes me about as uncomfortable as Checkers must have Richard Nixon uncomfortable. But we're going to have great fun tonight. I'm looking forward to it.
Mr. Winkler, I need right now, I'm asking if you would like to respond to any of the information you just heard.
Well, if I'm guilty, I got some statements to the press which I'm going to release. I got about 25 copies, and I didn't make enough copies because there's too many of you here. But like the student says, we could all share these copies. I'm guilty of being very negligent with the internet. I forget my password, I write it down, and my username, I write it down, and misplace it. And you know, you go to the public library and you go to Gmail, and all of a sudden somebody else's Gmail comes up. This happens quite often. And once somebody's Gmail comes up, you see YouTube on there, you see Twitter on there. I can tweet on somebody else's account. I can go into somebody else's YouTube account. And some of these libraries, these internet cafes don't do a very good job of shutting down your email, because I go into the library almost every day, and somebody else's open email account shows up. And these are absolute fabrication of who I am. It's absolute contradiction. I mean, because it seems to me I'm a Dr. Jack, who I'm Mr. Hyde, I'm a man that turns into a wolf at night. And how could I be a devout Jew and then have Nazi affiliations? It makes no sense at all to me at all. And I'm shocked and dismayed. I don't hold any of the views of the Nazi Party. I don't hold any racist views. And I'm just as disgusted about these as you are. And I want to applaud you, because if people in Germany came together like this we have tonight, then the Nazi Party would not have rose to power, and there would have been no Holocaust. So I welcome this kind of get-together. I welcome your anger, because you got to know whether your board member is a Nazi or not. Well, I'm not a Nazi. Let's get that straight right away, and let's make that perfectly clear. I am not a Nazi.
Thank you. We'll allow you to also, Mr. Winkler, we'll allow you to respond after public comments as well.
I look forward to that.
Okay, I actually have 10 requests to speak. Each are at 3 minutes. So instead of doing 20 minutes, we'll go ahead and allow for 30 minutes. If you hear somebody else has already conveyed your ideas and you just want to defer your time, you're welcome to do so. Once again, as Deputy Ferrone said, I please ask everybody to be respectful. We have no children in the audience, which I'm very grateful for. As you think about what you said. Oh, we do? Okay, then let's put it this way. Think about what you say as if your son or daughter were sitting next to you. That's what I ask. Right now, I'd ask, is it Christina? Christiane Cooey, then Jackie McDougall, and then Julie Olson. If you please come up and stand at the podium, please.
May I speak?
Yes, you may.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, and all of you wonderful citizens of this community. I'm so proud to see all of you here. I can't see straight. It's good to know we care about our children and our grandchildren. As I said, my name is Christiane Cooey. Mr. Winkler, I have a feeling that you're quite a fan of my stepfather, Tony Alamo. My mother was the founder of the Tony and Susan Alamo Christian Foundation cult. I've noticed that as of today, as I went through your wishing him the best, I hope I can see if the federal prosecutor will be willing to send that to him, because he is doing 175 years in the federal penitentiary. He's been transferred from Marion, Illinois to Arizona I guess it'll be good for his health. He was convicted of, and I would appreciate if someone would maybe take that little girl out, of forcing 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old girls to marry him. That meant he threw a wedding ring at them out of a dirty box of rings and said, "Praise God, you're now my wife," and raped them, and continued to rape them until they finally escaped. And they had to run to escape. As a matter of fact, Oprah Winfrey recently did a piece on them a couple of years ago, these 5 young, brave women. Unfortunately, Tony Alamo was still allowed to run his circus here in Saugus, California. And I hope to be part of making sure that that comes to an end as quickly as possible. Mr. Winkler, I am not just a mother, a grandmother, but I'm also a Jew. Now, I find it interesting that you seem to have the same type of excuses that my mother used. Yes, we're Jews. But unfortunately, there's some Jews who unfortunately have such mental issues that they hate their own race. And they will do anything in the world to get their name into anything. I would feel sorry for you, Mr. Winkler. I would think of you as just a sad little man. Smiling. I smile well, too. Nice to see you. I'm right here. I'm the big one. I find what you have done and said to be, I find you a repugnant human being, and I don't mean to be rude, and I hope that's allowed. But any man who would write what you have written,
Ms. Coe, you're allowed 3 minutes.
have I done it?
You did.
Oh.
I forgot to introduce Mrs. Shea here. And Mrs. Shea. Thank you for your comments. We were going to go through these, and then if you want to take notes and respond to each at the end of the 10, how's that? You can? You need one? Jackie McDougal.
Hi, as you said, my name's Jackie McDougal. I'm a concerned, it's not even on, is it? All right. I'm a concerned parent in the Saugus district, and I'd like to remove some of the emotion and just ask you, Mr. Winkler, based on reports, where do you live?
I live in Saugus,
Do you have an address?
27135 Rio Prado Drive, 91354 Censure, Rio.
According to reports, that's not the case. So how do you respond to that you live in Sylmar?
Well, yesterday they said I was living out of my car. Today I'm living in Sylmar. Where am I going to be living tomorrow?
That you can tell us that.
Well, I mean, the thing of it is, I have a storage place there, and I do party there a lot. That, like, my brother has a place in Winkler because of parties, not going to drive truck. So I get friends there, and I rent a storage space there. And but I vote at 27135 Rio Prado Drive. I have a rental agreement at 27135 Rio Prado Drive. I receive my mail over there. I sleep over there. I live over there. Any proof that district needs on my residence, they asked tonight, what proof do you need? I have a rental agreement.
Mr. Winkler, Emily, sorry. And I think I need to explain to all the speakers, it's a 3-minute speaking time.
Okay, so I can ask questions?
Oh, you can keep talking for your 3 minutes. Mr. Winkler can write down comments, and we're going to allow him to address those.
Okay.
So right now, we're at what's referred to as the public comment.
Okay, so as many of us should, I fully take responsibility for not being actively involved enough to know when somebody's running for school board to do our due diligence. We have a responsibility as parents. This room does not look like this every month, and that's a shame. And like I said, I'm also responsible for that. I have 3 young children who I would protect. I'm at IEP meetings. I'm at the school for pickup. I met with teachers. I should have done my job. And to know who is running for school on the school board, who would be responsible for making decisions that affect my family so deeply. And shame on me and shame on many of us for not doing our job, because what you have been doing is public. My question to the board is, according to reports, one if not more, were alerted about Mr. Winkler's behavior in August 2012. Is that true?
As soon as you're with them, well, then we'll let somebody
Okay,
respond.
and if that is true, I would love to know the course of action, which I'm sure many of us would love to know the course of action, because that, to me, is more dangerous. Somebody's public behavior is dangerous, but I can work with that. I can protect my family from that. But secrets and not telling the public when there is danger, that scares me. And I know some of you personally, and I have a lot of respect for you. But we need to know as parents so we can do our job. And if you can't get him off the board, let us do our job. You may have what you think is God on your side. You have not been up against the parents of the Saugus district.
Can I go?
Keep going, and yes, with Jackie, we will respond.
My name is Julie Olson. I'm a concerned parent of 2 students in the Saugus Union School District. I'm kind of emotional. I'm really, really hot right now, so I'm going to try to keep my language squared away. There's going to be some great points brought up tonight. Like everybody else, when I started doing my research on Monday, when the story broke, I was quite shocked and sickened. I'm ready to talk about how this happened. We, the voters, and more specifically, those of you that didn't vote, are responsible for this. We did a horrible job of investigating and vetting this guy to sit on our board. Rose Concili, we have been informed by a district head that he contacted you in August of 2012 and told you all of these concerns. I want to know what was done with that information. I want to know exactly what you did, who you told, and why we parents were not informed. I'll wait. I'm going to finish what I'm going to say and you can answer me later. Mr. Winkler, the online history and trails over 7 years, or 6 years, I heard tonight, I thought it was more, is sickening. I mean sickening. I know your claims that the YouTube account is not yours, but do you do claim ownership of your Facebook and Twitter accounts? Why do you link your YouTube to your Twitter account when it's not yours? That's very strange to me and doesn't add up at all. You used the same sentence, a very specific sentence on your YouTube account several years ago that you just used on your Facebook account on June 10th. We can agree on one thing, you and I. You do have brains 1 degree less than a moron. Your strange fetish of getting off on watching young children ride dogs and how exactly you want them to do it. Talking about smashing in a dog's head or telling someone you wish their mother aborted them sickens me. And a lot of other people in this room too. Our community made a huge mistake in letting this guy get any power or influence at all. This is not a court of law and we do not have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that these accounts are his. To use a term Winkler may be familiar with, all we need to do is stick our tail between our legs and admit we all screwed up. It's time for a recall now. Mr. Winkler, save yourself further embarrassment by stepping down from the board tonight. People like him do not plan to make this easy on us. But luckily for us, hell hath no fury like a Santa Clarita scorned.
Our next 3 speakers are Deborah Rocha, Joan Oxman, and Issa Dianis.
Good evening, trustees. Tonight I come to you as a mother, a community member of Saugus, and a teacher. All 4 of my children proudly attended our Saugus schools. When our school board adopted core values including respect, integrity, learning, teamwork, and enthusiasm, it was clear that you all spent a great amount of time deciding on the most important values appropriate that would guide each of you, our staff, and teachers in our district. Each of you trustees have committed to uphold these 5 core values in every decision that you make, every action that you take, and every part of your life. Unfortunately, Mr. Winkler, you have not lived up to your oath and that you have committed to our children. And for this reason, we strongly believe that you should resign from your position, effective immediately. These core values have become part of our daily classroom routines and are integrated into our teaching. We feel strongly that the decision makers for Saugus need to live by these values just like our teachers do each day that they walk into the classrooms. As trustees, you have made it clear that respect, integrity, learning, teamwork, and enthusiasm are not negotiable, but they're required. Trustees, our community likewise demands that each of you live by these core values as you develop policy that protects and guides our children. Mr. Winkler, your pattern of behavior over the last 6 years reflects not only poor judgment, but recklessness. As an elected official representing our community, it is your job to be responsible, an honest citizen, and abide by these codes of ethics. The damage has been done to Saugus and our community. It's time for you to leave, Mr. Winkler. This is not fun. This is a waste of our limited resources and time that should be spent on our children, not these escapades. If you have any sense of responsibility, our community deserves you to resign tonight. We fully support a recall of Stephen Winkler. You do not represent our community.
Good evening, board members, staff, and concerned community members. It has been 3 years since I retired from the Saugus Union School District, and I think you probably noticed that I've been visibly absent during that time. I am here tonight representing only myself and perhaps echo the voice of other concerned citizens. I found myself compelled to speak here this evening because initially of a single isolated Twitter post from Mr. Stephen Winkler, which criticized teachers in the district using harsh and inappropriate words, which compared Saugus teachers to Nazis. Throughout the years of my employment with the district, we worked together to develop a good working relationship. In one tweet, Mr. Winkler attempted to destroy that working relationship. In looking at that post, I was motivated to see what other types of public comments Mr. Winkler might have made. Much to my disappointment, I found many startling statements posted on Facebook, YouTube, and on his own website, which I believe you are now familiar with, board, or soon will be. I have no doubt that I have not found all of the information out there. On his very own website, which is currently offline, but available to those in the know who use something called a Wayback Machine. There are 200, yes, I said 200 plus pages of rhetoric spewing anti-Semitic and racist comments. There is a very consistent theme of animal cruelty and threats towards others. Yes, Mr. Winkler, as we teach our children and students, the internet is indeed a very mysterious place, and what you say will be there forever. So Mr. Winkler has denied that he has a YouTube account. His account, however, was opened in 2007, and I have with me tonight 28 pages of documentation that will show without a doubt that he is indeed the owner of this site, as well as his YouTube page. I hope you will do the honorable thing, Mr. Winkler, and protect the children of Saugus and maybe the children of California, as I hear you are also a credentialed teacher, by stepping down from your position and get some help. Saugus has always been a district of excellence, and I would personally like to see that tradition of excellence continue. And it will do so without your help. Thank you.
Oh my. Mrs. Diarmas.
Good evening. As a member of the Saugus Union School District for over 20 years and a Saugus administrator for 12 years, I stand before you representing all of the Saugus administrators that you see. In my years of experience with the Saugus Union School District, the Saugus board members have conducted themselves in a professional manner with integrity to meet the needs of every student, staff, and community member. Excellence in education in the Saugus Union School District is at the heart of what we do each day. Saugus administrators support all of our teachers, staff, and their endless hours of hard work and dedication to our district. All Saugus administrators are deeply concerned about the issues facing the board. We are dedicated to the safety of our children and the education. We trust the board will do all in due diligence investigating this matter, and that you will do all that you can to ensure the safety of our students, our teachers, and our staff members. We thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mrs. Diarmas, and thank you, administrators. I have Mrs. Goldberg, Cheryl Goldberg, Barbara Walker, and Steve Petzel. Can we have a letter, please? Should I start? No, right ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Winkler, I'm Jewish. You make me ashamed to be associated with someone like you. The only thing that we want to happen tonight is for you to resign. Nothing else matters. We don't care what you think, what you feel, or anything else. All we want to do is take care of all the children that you have an impact on. So I ask you, will you resign?
The answer is no.
Mr. Winkler, you do understand that one way or another, this community is going to get you out of that seat.
Oh, yeah.
Your behavior is despicable. Your reaction to this is comical. I hope you get the help that you need.
Barbara Walker.
Good evening. For the school board, the parents, the community members, all of us. I stand with you with righteous anger and concern on the deeply disturbing behaviors that have surfaced. To me, my thinking, a more expedient and simplistic method of removal of Mr. Winkler is that there is the appearance of fraud on legal documents submitted by Mr. Winkler to local and state governing agencies regarding voters. The appropriate government authorities can take action for this removal. The application for the Saugus School Board states that Mr. Winkler lives at 24600 Town Center Drive in Valencia, and the zip code is 91355. The voter registration shows that Mr. Winkler lives at 24600 Town Center Drive in Valencia, zip code 91355. These are legal submissions under penalty of perjury. And what we need to know is that this afternoon, I took a short tootle down the lane and went to Town Center Drive. There is 24586 Town Center Drive. There is 24602 Town Center Drive. Totally absent is 24600 Town Center Drive. I have the documents. That address does not appear to exist. No wonder the mailing address is in Canyon Country. And while, like, where's Waldo, we go, where is Mr. Winkler? We find that none of these are within the Saugus Union School District. And the address that was given by Mr. Winkler this evening with the zip code of 91354 is not a Saugus zip code. I know. I am your neighbor. I am a Saugus resident. And I request that Mr. Winkler be removed, that he remove himself. He has never been a legal Saugus resident by his statement to governing agencies. Thank you.
Mrs. Walker, upon conclusion of all 10 speakers, we will comment to that as well.
Members of the board and Stephen Winkler, my name is Steve Petzold. I'm a resident of Saugus. I've had several children go through the Saugus Unified School District. I'd like to first address the board and ask them the question. I've been told, or I've heard, that Mr. Winkler's movements on the school campuses within the Saugus Unified School District has been restricted or controlled by other employees. I don't know whether that's true. I'd like you to address whether that is or not. Mr. Winkler, I'm going to take responsibility for you being up there tonight along with 2,200 other individuals. I voted for you. Unfortunately, at this point, I deeply regret having done that, and I lament having taken that action just as a matter of voting against an incumbent. You have betrayed the trust of this community as a trustee of the Saugus Unified School District Board. I would like you to take some time this evening after the emotions have left this room and consider resigning your position from this board. You do not have the support that I can tell of anybody on the board, any of the teachers, any of the administrators, the students, or the community. I have yet to hear anybody speak in your defense. I appreciate the words which Mr. Bryce shared this morning, or this afternoon, regarding his research. I'd like to also acknowledge Mr. Mike Devlin for the research that he did. I mean, it takes an incredible amount of time, and I know Mr. Devlin to be an honorable person who is not engaged in a witch hunt, but went and looked for the truth as he could find it, and acknowledged any weaknesses that he might have had in linking the Google to the YouTube. Mr. Winkler, I don't believe your explanation regarding the YouTube account not being yours. I find the contents therein as disturbing as anybody regarding the children riding the animals, the Nazi national anthem. What else was there? Oh, the animal mutilation was disturbing too. So at this time, I would just request, as a person who has supported you in the past, that you would take some time this evening and do what's right for this community and for yourself, and resign your position as a trustee on the Saugus Unified School District. I thank you for your time and attention.
Our final speaker, unless I have any more requests, is Betty Singer.
All right. Good evening. I'm Babette Singer. I've been a junior high school teacher for delinquents also, and taught on the college level as well. And I'm here echoing the voice of innocent children anywhere that will read this material. My question before I get into this witch hunt here is, just a yes or a no from you, Mr. Winkler. Did you really write the following blogs of killing puppies, dogs, and blacks? Placing a black man in the White House is a sin against the Most High God. Your mother should have had an abortion after being raped. Instead, she got you. I used to kill puppies when I was a kid, and I do not break for dogs. And that's just a little bit. Is this a yes or a no? Did you write these?
No.
Okay, if you did not write it, then this is a big witch hunt here, and whoever is responsible for this, and if it is you, I'm going to go with it's either you or whoever did this to you, needs to be, we have police in the room here, need to be criminally prosecuted, whoever is doing this. Because I'll tell you something, it's a very dangerous situation in this world when you hear schools being shot up every day with people coming in with guns, and then you have this kind of violence promoted. And if it is a member of the school board, they need to be kicked off by the police, not necessarily you guys. It's disturbing to hear Mr. Winkler say he did not write that, because I'm playing neutral here. So you need to investigate who wrote this. Okay, so, and I wanted to see what else. If you did write it, I had comments like you should get off the school board and become a talk show host and write newspaper articles. And in this violent world where children are shooting others and schools up, representatives of schools and children cannot be talking about puppies with smashed in skulls. That is a cute sight to behold. And also, as a representative of the school board, which I'm sure you know, you're a grown man, when I was teaching, I would take my delinquents that had violent pasts that were on their way up to jail somewhere and put them in a circle and let them vent. I taught them, fake it till you make it. In other words, hold the hostility in. If you don't, is that it? Yes. Oh, okay. But anyways, I hope you find peace in your life. And watch what you say. That's all I'm going to say. And I hope you didn't do what they're saying you did. But if you did, uh-oh.